Dan, I think therapy has completely changed my life. And I've been in therapy for 12 years now. I know you had an awful death in your family, which condolences to you and your entire family. I can't even imagine how that feels. And I know you've been dealing with a lot. I lost my therapist a couple of years ago, and he died out of nowhere. He had a heart attack, and that was an enormous blow to me because he's been such a source for me. Dan, what happened was, a lot of people forget, you don't, of course, because you were there, but I was one of 3 people in the history of the game to be in the big leagues at the age of 18. Myself, Tony La Russa, and one other that I can't recall his name right now. And I was 18 years old. I looked like I was 28, but I had the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old.
A boy.
And while all I did was my 10,000 hours, like the outlier, in baseball, I fell behind emotionally. I fell behind with my education. And remember, I have this big vacancy because Pops left at the age of 10. And it wasn't to some of my trials and tribulations as I got older and dealing with Dr. David with some of these issues, unpacking what happened when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, and rewiring my brain that I did not need to search anymore. The big aha moment was, what God made in me was enough, whether you like it or not. And Dan, what I was doing, and you probably remember this because you knew me personally, and then you saw what I projected, and there was a delta there that was pretty big. And today, what you see here, we're just having the conversation the same. Like, I'm not changing, right? And that came through years and years of therapy.
I don't know that I do therapy as well. I've done a ton of it. I've had a lot of recent breakthroughs just because the pain has caused a great deal of growth, because sometimes you don't learn things until you're hurting. I don't know what led you to therapy, but I would imagine you wanting to be liked a whole lot and then having everything fall apart in front of people. I would imagine that didn't help, like everything that was happening to you publicly with steroids. But if I could have one thing that I'm always searching for in therapy that I know will make me happier, but I always struggle with, is how I can be lighter on myself, how I could be more forgiving with myself. I struggle with that because I had a father who didn't do pleasure, and I was always trying to please him, and the little boy in me also didn't grow up very much because he was just trying to please a man who didn't do pleasure, and then I was never good enough. In my own head, I'm never good enough.